Namaste and welcome to Kali Yuga Dharma. We continue our long leftover series on the Mahabharata, which I left behind a year ago. You can go to the description and see the very last episode, episode 6 of Adiparva, where we left off at the point where Vinata and Kadru are going to have their own children. Now, in this episode of today's, uh, we are going to go into the next part, the next chapter from the chapter from where we left off a year ago. This chapter covers the very famous and well-known chapter of Samudramanthana, which is often repeated across various Puranas, specifically the Bhagavata Purana. And the Samudramanthana is an episode that directly connects to the lives of Vinata and Kadru and how these events would change the universe forever in times to come. Now, the Samudra Manthanas repeated again and again across Itihasas, both Ramayana and Mahabharata, and across the Puranas, especially the Shuddha Sattvika Puranas such as Bhagavata Purana, Vishnu Purana, Garuda Purana, etc. We'll be seeing today what is so important about the Samudra Manthana to the extent that not only in Itihasas and Puranas but also in Pravachanas today by Bhagavatas given in various temples as well as in the carvings on temple walls. Why is it that the Samudra Manthana keeps repeating again and again, and what exactly is the importance of this event? It is seemingly a very simple event, but is it really that simple? Let's find out for ourselves. There existed a great rock at the time, a cosmic peak known as Mandara. It lay somewhere 11,000 Deva Yojanas in the upward direction from Bhuloka. Now, a Deva Yojana is an astronomical unit whose measure in the terms of light years, etc., is unknown. It's just a very huge measure, basically. And about 11,000 yojanas from the upward direction from Brahmanda, somewhere in one of the Devalokas, Mount Mandara existed. It was a home to various celestial plants, animals, and devas themselves, and it extended many yojanas above the. It resided somewhere in the Devaloka. Now, the devas had to bring this Mount Mandara to a certain location in Patala Loka. Why? That's because Devas, as we know, are bhaktas of Sriman Narayana in a state of bhakti yoga. They want to enjoy their karma phalas by doing penance, tapas, and they want to be of service within samsara to Sriman Narayana. They have not performed Sharanagati yet, and therefore Sriman Narayana keeps giving them an exalted position in the cosmic divinity hierarchy, whereby he keeps them in a position of being his loyal servants, and he also uses them to achieve his celestial goals. Time and again, Vishnu makes his devotees to participate in his own creation cycles. This is something that he just does throughout the cycles of creation and destruction throughout Kalpas. There are many such cycles. In one cycle, he commands Rishi Kashyapa to do penances to create various races such as Devas, Asuras, Nagas, etc. In another cycle, he would command some other Deva Rishis to go perform some other yajnas and tapas so that certain other creatures and certain other creations such as lokas of his own are they come into being, they come into manifestation. Samudra Manthana is one such event in which Vishnu himself, Sriman Narayana himself, makes his own bhaktas, the devas, participate in an event where more creatures and creations need to be manifested in the universe. More creatures and creations need to be created, and he uses them as co participants along with himself to achieve it. Now, why does he do this? Why does he drag devas, asuras, etc. into doing these things? That's because their karma phala has it such that they are going to be given the saubhagya, the good fortune of participating in these events alongside Paramatma himself. experiencing their own karma phalas, their own punya phalas and papa phalas from previous kalpas, and in the process, they are given the chance of gaining more and more wisdom as to the true nature of Sriman Narayana, the nature of creation and destruction, and their own nature as souls. And for this reason, to facilitate all of this, he drags them time and again into various such events like the Samudramanthana. That's why he does it. Now the Devas are at full strength and they could not lift the Mount Mandara. They invoke Vishnu, who comes on the Garuda. He puts his one hand below the Mount Mandara, lifts it with one palm, places it on Garuda, and then sits on top of Garuda, and then starts flying all the way from Devaloka to Patala. That is basically from one side of the Brahmanda universe to the other end. So, what does that tell us? The Devas were incapable of doing it. They invoked Vishnu. Vishnu came to their aid and he started helping them. Now, now when Vishnu placed Mount Mandara on the Pralaya Samudra near the Garbhodaka, near the Patala Loka, the Devas were at a loss as to who would facilitate them in doing this churning event. And remember, the sea that is going to be churned over here is not the sea that we have on Earth. This is the Garbhodaka, the primordial cosmic sea from which the materials that make up the universe are manifesting. There's a cosmic sea made of cosmic materials, and therefore this sea has to be churned. Now, it's again Vishnu in the form of Upendra who tells them that why don't you enlist the Nagadeva Vasuki's help to do this? And so they agree, they say, okay, let's enlist Vasuki's help for this purpose. Now who'll support Mount Mandara from below? Now, even before he placed Mount Mandara, he had sent some Devas to go talk to another avatara of his own. Upendra had sent the Devas to talk to another avatara of his own, known as Kurma Avatara, saying that he's already there in the form of a tortoise. He's a large tortoise Devata who's residing near Patala Loka. He'll take it on his back. So what we notice is already an avatara kala of an avatara known as Upendra is ongoing. Upendra is an avatara like Rama or Krishna, but this avatara will walk more among devas than among humans. Like how Rama Krishna walked among humans. There are some avatars that will walk more among devas. Upendra is one such. And Upendra is already playing the devas to doing his own bidding, his own grand bidding. And as soon as Mount Mandara is placed on Kurma's back, they go into a debate on who should be the rope that acts as, where should they even find such a rope to do the churning. Upendra only again suggests, why don't you, he in fact suggests it to Brahma, saying that, why don't you go and enlist Vasuki's help? And Brahma tells it to the other Devas, and they approach Vasuki in Nagaloka, and Vasuki agrees to be the rope that is going to do the churning. And Vasuki is given a divine body that is so many Deva Yojanas long in order to be able to facilitate the churning of this cosmic portion of Brahmanda. Now, the next problem is the Mount Mandara starts jumping up and down, disturbing the lokas near Patala Loka. The Devas don't know what to do now, and so they again make an invocation to Vishnu. And Vishnu comes in an eight-handed form, as you can see in the screen here, and he sits on top of the Mount Mandara and he acts as a weight stopper. And when the churning is going to begin, we know that the Devas and Asuras had a very popular and a comical argument about who will go towards the head, and the Asuras were the ones who started this argument, not surprisingly. They said we should go towards the head because we are Kashyap's firstborns and we are greater than you in every way, so we have to go. And Upendra convinces them, saying, yeah, why don't they go to the head? And he does it for a reason. Why? Because when the churning begins, the churning goes on for many cosmic days, and every time the Asuras pull Vasuki's throat, Vasuki, being a Nagadeva, he is endowed with a, a combination of potent celestial toxins that you and I cannot even imagine. Now, if a cobra bites you, you die in a few minutes, right? Vasuki is not an earthly cobra. He is a multi-headed celestial cobra whose poison can burn an entire loka, like how a cobra today can burn you. Vasuki's poison can burn the cosmos. And so Vasuki coughs up poisons which take the form of clouds, which rain down fire on the Asuras, and many Asuras die. And this is exactly what Upendra wants. Why? Because these Asuras are vile, evil people. And when we say vile, evil people, how do we qualify it? They are adherments by the tenets of Sanatana Dharma. They are against the moral compass that the Vedas prescribe for souls. These people are murderers, they are rapists, they are slave traders. People like Hiranyaksha, Viprachitti, they are all part of this Samudramanthana. They are all participants to the Samudramanthana. They are all people like Hiranyakashipu and Ravana who commit all sorts of crimes. There is no crime that they don't commit. And so wiping them out to stop them from committing further crimes is a duty that he has towards the Devas and towards his Bhaktas. Therefore, he tells a group of them, go and tug Vasuki's head. Now, Samudra Manthana's great importance comes in over here as an episode. Apart from these storyline aspects, the real importance of Samudra Manthana comes in here. Vishnu takes a number of forms in which he tells you, he shows you through action how he pervades over us as souls, how our free will is actually useless, and how at every turn even the devas are helpless and they keep calling upon him, and he takes one avatar or another to come to their aid and facilitate their work for them. In reality, they are not doing anything. He is taking these various forms and doing it for them and then making them feel as if they have done it. In reality, this is how he operates even with us on a daily basis on this Bhuloka, on this earth. And this is how he operates with all souls at all times, whether it's Krita Yuga or Kali Yuga, he operates with us only in this way. Samudra Manthana shows it to us in a very live case study form of a setting. Vishnu as the tortoise, Kurmadeva, Vishnu constantly flying on Garuda around Mount Mandara to shouting praises and encouraging the Devas to tug harder. The 800 weight stopper Vishnu atop Mount Mandara giving the Devas bravery that he's always watching over them from above. Vishnu participating in the pulling itself as Upendra and using his words to deceive the Asuras, making them tug on Vasuki's head, thereby making Vasuki rain fire on them and killing them in large numbers. Vishnu giving subtle suggestions as Upendra to Brahma to do the next course of action. Vishnu in the form of Vyuha Hrishikesha. Now, if you have watched my previous episode on the Agama Shastras, you will understand who the three Vyuha avatars are. The four Vyuha avatars are Vasudeva, Sankarshana, Pradyumna, Aniruddha, and Hrishikesha is an avatar of Vyuha Aniruddha. Hrishikesha himself is sitting somewhere near Patala Loka on Adishesha, the Garbhodaka coming out of his navel, and he is enjoying the sight of Samudra Manthana happening. And through his mere sight of enjoying the Samudra Manthana, the Devas are being grazed more and more. Vishnu comes as Dhanvantari finally to get the amruta out. And Vishnu is the Antaryami of all the participants. He is the Antaryami of Mount Mandara. He is the Antaryami of Vasuki. He is the Antaryami of Shiva, of Brahma, of everyone who's participating in the Samudra Manthana. So as they keep pulling, the Bhagavata Purana beautifully illustrates how he comes in the form of a Satvika light and shines on the Devas and makes them pull even harder, thinking of him, and how he comes in the form of a Rajasika light, shines on the Asuras and stirs up their ego, their greed, their lust, their vengeful thoughts, and their anger towards the Devas even more, making them tug Vasuki's throat, making Vasuki rain fire on them and killing them. The entire event is orchestrated by these avatars of Vishnu, and these Devas and Asuras practically do nothing. But they are made to feel that they are doing everything. Such is the Moha Maya of the Samudra Manthana. Already we are able to see the Vedantic association of this episode to the core Vedas and why it is such an important episode from the Vedic point of view. It tells us almost everything that the Vedas will tell us in a very simple story form. Tugging of Vasuki goes on and the churning goes on. Some very rare creations come out. The celestial jewel known as Kaustubha, Lakshmi in the form of Shri, Her elder sister Alakshmi, who appears before her, who is basically a celestial demoness, she's a Rakshasi. Uchay Shravas, the great Deva horse, the seven-headed Deva horse, the four-tusked elephants that act as the Dig Gajas, all of these appear during the Samudramanthana. The Kapila tree, the races of Apsaras, they all appear during Samudramanthana. And whenever a series of celestial beings like Apsaras or plants or any other devatas, whenever they would appear from the churning of the Samudra, they would drift according to their own karma to either one side, either to the side of the Devas or to the side of the Asuras. But even in all of this, while the superior ones would drift towards the Devas, the supreme entities that would emerge from the Samudra would drift to neither side. They would, as soon as they emerge from the Samudra, they would choose to drift towards Vishnu and stay with him. They chose neither Devas nor Asuras. They chose eternal Sambandha with Sriman Narayana. Two such beings are the Kaustuba gem and Shri. The Kaustuba gem, the gemstone, was a living being in the form of a gemstone. Now, this Kaustuba gem, if you see, is found always on the neck of Sriman Narayana. Why is that? Because, like Garuda, Adisesha, his sword Nandaka, his divine bow Sharanga, his chakra Sudarshana, his conch Panchajanya, his lotus Kaumodaki, like all of them, this is also a Nityasuri. It has eternally resided in Vaikuntha. So, when it is given an avatara form within Brahmanda in the form of the Kaustuba gemstone, it automatically gravitates towards him and goes and sits on his neck. Shri, the avatara of Lakshmi, emerging from the Samudra, immediately chooses Vishnu to be her husband and marries him on the spot. Above the Mount Mandara, in fact, an event occurs in the sky during the churning. An event occurs out there in the cosmos where the Devas and Asuras pause their churning and witness Shri being married to Sriman Narayana. Now, in this event, let me take a pause and go into why this event, the marriage, happened. Shri and Shri's avatara was the actual reason the Samudramanthana takes place. Shri and Narayana take various avatars to walk among humans and devas at various points of time, and Shri's previous avatar as Shri, it comes to its end, its conclusion. And so when she leaves the Devas, when she disappears from the midst of the Devas start losing all their wars to the Asuras and they start losing the control of the entirety of Brahmanda to the Asuras, and the Asuras start taking lokas over. And so when they approach Brahma and ask him, what do we do? He penances to Vishnu and asks him, what can we do? And Vishnu says, if you churn this divine sea, in the process, Shri will reappear and she will bless you with the necessary power to take back what is yours, that is all your devalokas from the asuras, and restore goodness to Brahmanda in my name. The Samudra Manthana, we are always told, was done for the Amruta, but in reality it was done for Shri. The Padma Purana says so. Then what was the purpose of the Amruta? The Amruta acted as a goal for the Devas to strive forward towards. It was more like a substance. The Devas are Rajasic beings, and so they needed a substance proof to show that, look, I'm giving you a substance, an elixir to drink and gain your Amritatva back, and therefore strive towards that and do the Manthana for that purpose. If they had been told, as soon as Shri appears, your mission is essentially over, there is a big chance they would not have believed Sriman Narayana, and therefore they are given a substance goal to strive towards. This is another Vedic teaching that even for his bhaktas, who require these kinds of substance based proofs that he's there on their side, he will dangle these proofs in front of them, whereas the real string puller will be sitting elsewhere. In this case, the real string puller is his wife Shri. And therefore, when Shri marries Sriman Narayana in front of Mount Mandara itself, the Devas accept them as Paramatma, whereas numerous Asuras and Rakshasas, jealous that Shri did not choose any of them as her husband, they effectively start denouncing Sriman Narayana and Shri in all foul language, in all abusive language, and they say like we don't believe that there exists an Almighty, and we won't believe that you are an Almighty. You are the Almighty of the Vedas. They denounce the Vedas over there in their anger that Shri did not choose any of them as her husband, and therefore these Asuras and Rakshasas are reborn time and again as evil beings. Viprachiti is the one who's reborn as Jarasandha. Kali is the one reborn as Duryodhana. Dambodbhava is the one reborn as Karna, so on and so forth. The various evil kings who appear in Mahabharata, in fact, were also present over here in their previous lives as Asuras in the Krita Yuga. And so, another Vedic teaching comes to us that, like these Asuras, we are also souls that are constantly being reborn time after time after time, and we will not remember our previous lives. In our previous lives, we would also been one of these Asuras and one of those Devas and one of those lesser Devatas. However, we all have one choice. We can choose to drift towards Sriman Narayana or away from him. How we are going to take the Puranic and the Itihasic examples to do that is completely up to us, and that Samudramanthana says Vishnu largely leaves it up to us. Now, during the churning, before Amrita appears the famous Halahala poison, the poison that Shiva drinks. Now, when the Devas and the Asuras are getting killed in large numbers by the appearance of this poison, the Devas invoke the name of Sriman Narayana, who in turn, through Brahma, he instigates Shiva to go and drink it, and in the form of Upendra, he tells Shiva, drink this poison, no questions asked. And Shiva just says, okay, I will do it. He doesn't ask any questions and he drinks it. Shiva drinking the Halahala poison is a very eventful event because it tells you Bhakta Lakshana. It tells you that a true Bhakta does not question Sriman Narayana. He doesn't have doubts. He doesn't doubt Sriman Narayana. Oh, what's his ulterior motive? Why is he asking me to drink poison? No, Shiva just drinks the poison because he knows that this is his all merciful Paramatman who will never do anything bad to him. And in fact, even when Vishnu asks him, his master and lord, when he asks him to drink poison, even that is an honor. And that's why Shiva, without question, he drinks that poison. And Vishnu is satisfied and he's like, oh, okay, this is how a bhakta is. And he stops the poison in his neck itself. And why does he stop the poison in his neck? Thereby giving him the name Nilakanta to remind other people in the future that this is how a bhakta should be. If I ask you to drink poison, you should drink it because that itself, I will turn that poison into your blessing, and therefore the blue throat of Shiva is a reminder to everyone else as to how a true bhakta should be. The poison turned into Shiva's badge of honor, and Shiva proves himself to be a very loyal servant of Sriman Narayana. And when time goes by and the pot of Amrita doesn't appear, Shri has already appeared. The Deva should have been satisfied with it, but that they are not satisfied. They have been told by Brahma, keep churning till the pot of Amrita appears. It doesn't appear, and therefore, finally, what do? They invoke Vishnu's name again in the form of Vedic mantras. And when they do so, he takes a form of Dhanvantari, dives into the Garbhodaka of the cosmic sea, and brings out the pot. Again, over here, what do we notice? He is only bringing it out for them. They are not doing anything, but they are being made to feel that it's their invocation that brought it out. The Dhanvantari event is a finale event to the churning. The churning ends with this because their objective has been reached. It is a finale event to this churning to let them know that your material objective has been reached and you can interpret it however you want. You can interpret it like you have done it, and the wiser among the devas and rishis will interpret it as no, we didn't do anything, he did it. You can interpret it as the amrita is the one that is giving the devas and the asuras the power of immortality, or you can interpret that it is Shri and Narayana's mere blessing that is giving their bhaktas the power of amritatva. That is also left up to you. Now, we all know that after the pot of amrita comes out, the asuras and devas start fighting over it. The asuras first steal it, and Vishnu goes in the form of Mohini to bring it back. There's a very comical and a pointless fight. Why? Because the purpose of the Samudramanthana was the appearance of Shri's avatar, and when Shri herself appeared, the Devas should have been satisfied saying, yeah, she has appeared, she has blessed us. Now, whether we drink the Amrita or not is immaterial, because with her blessing, it's as good as the Amrita is drunk. But no, they are Rajasic beings. The Asuras are even more Rajasic. So they start fighting over a pot of nectar when in reality they should have fallen at the feet of Vishnu and Shri. The Devas, although at the marriage of Shri and Narayana before the Mount Mandara, they do fall at the feet of Shri and Narayana, they don't consider that as enough. They still want the Amrita. Whereas the Asuras are worse off than the Devas because they didn't even fall at their feet at their marriage. They denounce them saying that we will not accept that you both are the Paramatma of the Vedas, you are the Almighty of the Vedas. So the Devas are better off than the Asuras that they at least worship them there, but the Asuras don't do even that. Mohini is a peculiar avatar of Sriman Narayana. Mohini is an avatara that is made of Narayana's Maya Shakti, specifically to deceive Asuras and Rakshasas, and in doing so, Mohini showcases to us that Sriman Narayana is capable of playing a very dangerous game with us if necessary, if we push him enough to do that to us. Mohini is an avatara like Adi Buddha or Chandika is a Maya avatara, and this avatara is basically a Mohamaya inducer to deceive evil people. That's the reason why Adi Buddha, Mohini, Chandika, they don't have sannidhis in Vishnu temples. But they are told to be Amshavataras of Vyuha Sankarshana and his wife Mahamaya. If you want to know who that is, refer to my episode on Agama Shastras, the previous episode that I uploaded last week. And you can go and look up in that who Vyuha Sankarshana and his wife Mahamaya are. And apart from very few Deva Rishis and Raja Rishis such as Shashidhwaja in Kalki Purana, normal mortals like humans and even Devas are forbidden from worshipping entities like Mohini because these Amshavataras of Sriman Narayana have the power of delusion, and when we do not have the necessary tapas siddhi to worship them, and we still go ahead and worship them, their tamasic Maya Shakti will hit us and make us eventually leave Sanatana Dharma, which is why these avatars do not have a place inside Vishnu temples. Only avatars like Rama, Krishna, Sriman Narayana in his four-handed state, Varaha, these avatars have a place inside Vishnu temples, whereas avatars like Mohini and Adi Buddha don't. And finally, an avatar duo of Sriman Narayana called Nara and Narayana, they emerge. They are fighter avatars. They are dharma palakas. They protect dharma across the three lokas in the three yugas in Krita Dwapara and in Krita Treta and Dwapara. And it is Nara and Narayana who appear as Arjuna and Krishna respectively. They are fighter avatars who hone celestial Maya Shakti of Vishnu in the form of weapons. And they perform a dual role. They protect their devotees from the evils of the universe, and they wipe the evils of the universe clean by killing asuras, killing rakshasas, and certain forces of evil, they delude and fool them. Now, where do we see this in Mahabharata? Characters such as the Jarasandha and Duryodhana are repeatedly fooled, made to run around in circles, humiliated and deluded. Characters such as Karna are given a second chance by Krishna to repent, and once they don't take the second chance, they are also made to run around in circles and dig their own graves. But people like Vidura, Uddhava, Bhishma, Arjuna, they are all given knowledge like Padma Purana, Bhagavad Gita, etc. They are given the highest Vedic knowledge. The same two avatars do all these things to various characters in Mahabharata depending on the karma phala of those characters and depending upon the deed and the moral characters of those characters, which tells us that this avatara duo, Nara and Narayana, they perform a plethora of roles, and their what they do to whom, with respect to whom, will depend on that person's karma phala. There's a very powerful avatara pair that emerge. So ultimately, when the Samudramanthana ends, and Mohini successfully brings the pot of amruta and distributes it among the Devas, and Svarbhanu, the Asuras, fools the Devas into drinking a sip of the amrita. Chandradeva and Suryadeva reveal that Svarbhanu is a disguised Asura, and they prompt Mohini to chop his head off using Sudarshana. A huge battle breaks out between the Devas and Asuras, but now Devas have restored the blessings of Shri and Narayana in them, and therefore, in that huge tidal battle, in that huge cosmic battle, with the help of Nara and Narayana, they win, and Nara and Narayana make their first military debut in that battle. Sudarshana is invoked time and again in that battle, and he comes in the form of a second sun in the battlefield. It is said that he blazes so bright that he looks like a second sun in the battlefield, and he massacres and annihilates scores and scores of asuras by flying across the battlefield all by himself. And it looks like a blazing fire spitting discus that is basically tormenting the entire battlefield, and it wipes the battlefield clean of asuras and devas. And the Devas, I mean, it wipes them the battlefield clean of Asuras and Rakshasas, and finally the Devas win. And when the Devas win, they clear off from they clear off from there, and they go to their respective lokas and resume rulership of their lokas, which they have gained after winning this huge victory against the Asuras. And Mount Mandara, what does this mountain do? It lifts off automatically by itself and flies away back to where whichever loka they initially brought it from. Now the Devatas that emerged from the Samudramanthana, they are given positions in various lokas to reside over there, and one such Devata is the celestial horse Uchai. It is a very unknown and a very unspoken of Deva, because you barely hear about this Deva, but it is this Devata which would go in front of Vinata and Kadru in our following episode next week, and would prompt a series of events which would eventually drag in Garuda, the Nagas, the Devas, the Asuras, and Sriman Narayana himself, and change the course of the universe itself. Uchay Shravas is that Devata who is going to act as a fulcrum for events to come forth, thereby showcasing that Sriman Narayana will use even Devatas like Uchay Shravas to further his will. To conclude, therefore, we can keep analyzing Samudra Manthana for days together, for even months, because every Purana, and the more we go into Vedas and Upanishads, and more we read Itihasas, and the more unknown corners of Puranas like Matsya Purana and various other Puranas, new information will keep coming from the Samudra Manthana, about the Samudra Manthana, thereby giving us the wondrous plethora of deeds that Vishnu does in this. But in a nutshell, if we want to know what is the importance of Samudra Manthana, we have seen how it acts as a microcosm of showing us how Sriman Narayana operates with respect to the universe and the souls in it, the multiverse and the souls in them, in fact. It is one of those Shuddha Satvika episodes. And Shuddha Satvika, why? Because its sole purpose is to convince us that our free will is useless, and that His will is going to eternally override over our will, and that in front of His will, all else does not matter. And when he is pervading over our free will, and he is the one guiding our free will itself to take a certain course of action, why must we hold on to this free will out of our own ego? Why can't we just surrender to him? And that's why saints like Bhagavad Ramanuja and Swami Vedanta Desika, they have time and again quoted this episode in their works, such as Sri Bhashya and Rahasya Traya, to let us know that don't keep this ego of your own personal will. Give up your will to them. Give up your will to him. Give up your will to Sriman Narayana, because holding on to it doesn't really make any sense. And in essence, this episode is supposed to prompt us one step further towards pondering, okay, why don't we perform Sharanagati? Because it seems to be the only course of action that makes any sense for the Jivatman, and all else does not matter at all. And therefore, the Samudra Manthana acts as a microcosm of Vedanta itself. And these events that we saw today, we will see from the next episode onwards how they influence the universe itself and change its course of events forever. I will be uploading episodes on Mahabharata more regularly. Forgive me that I have not been doing it on a regular basis since the last 1 year. But from now on, Mahabharata episodes will be updated more and more regularly. And you will be getting the links to the previous episodes in the description of the current episode itself. Needless to say, please keep performing Go Seva through whichever organization you're able to. Dakshin Vrindavan is one organization through whom I perform Go Seva and my family performs Go Seva. And they are an amazing organization, and they have proven time and again that they can rescue cows and bulls from slaughter, and they can give them a new second life. And cows and bulls are very happy under their protection. And so I would urge you to help them in any way you can. To you, a big thanks for listening, and stay tuned for the next episode in the coming week. To you and to your families, Srimate Narayana Namo Namaha.